All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Market Trade Group, and it is Thursday, May 27th. So we're through another day of May. We've got one more left, one more day of the trading month, and we'll talk about some themes of the day. We'll talk about the price action and maybe a few trade ideas too. Risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're talking about is for education purposes only. If the screen is a little bit blurry, YouTube does take a little bit of time to render these videos, so give it a little bit more time if it's blurry, and when you come back, it'll be crystal clear with a little bit of passage of time. So, price action for the day. S&P once again flat for the day. Qs were down a little bit. Really, the outperformance again came from the small caps for the second day in a row. Today they were up 1% for the day. Bonds were down a little bit. VIX down another 3.6% to close at 1674. Right, pretty decent move down in the VIX the last couple days. Couple themes of the day. Number one, even though the S&P and the Qs were essentially flat for the day, really I thought constructive price action under the hood, and same thing with market breadth, right? If you want to look at market breadth really quick, and then we'll go over some of the price action. But if we look at the market breadth, right, you could see for Dow kind of evenly skewed, but really where the separation is in the S&P, 329 advancing names, 174 declining names. NASDAQ, which contains a lot of those small cap names, 1951 advancing, 926 declining. And again, if you look at the skew in the new 4-week high names, pretty decent, 10 to 3 in S&P and 10 to 2 in NASDAQ. Super strong, I think, right? When you look, like I said, if you look at some of the issues, individual names within the indices, I think pretty good price action. Okay, let's talk about that just in the indices really quickly. Right, and again, if you've been watching my videos over the last few days, you know that I've been talking about, I'm very constructive, going into the month of June. I think that we've gotten a lot of things out of the way. A little bit of corrections underneath the hood, a little bit in this month of May, which we basically have not gone anywhere in the month of May. But again, remember what we did in March and in April. Those months were pretty constructive, right? The very end of March, right? So we've had consolidation, and I'm looking for a move higher, right? Which I've said over the last week. I also think too, in the beginning of the month, that new money could be put to work. Again, not 100%, but I'm also liking that the volume is starting to go down here too. The volume goes up on distribution, right? Again, you can look at all the times that we've gone up in the indices. It's usually on low volume. Okay, so I see that happening now. Starting to happen now. We've checked back a number of times to the top of value here, and we've been holding it. And it looks like, again, we're trying to resolve higher. So that's how I see the S&P. I think fairly constructive. Right? Qs have basically been sideways a bit. They still have some resistance to get through. So the Qs still have to get through that 334 level or 335 level. But note, we're going to open up in June in a couple days, and we'll see if this can maybe hang out here and then push higher. I don't know that for sure, just a guess in the Qs, but I would watch that 335 level. Small caps, right? We know that these have had some really nice performance the last 2 days. Do I see a crazy buy signal here yet? No, not yet. I'm waiting for confirmation of a push outside of value. Right, and then if we look at the micro caps too, right, they are actually a little bit stronger than those small caps, and possibly pushing to a buy signal. All right, so that's the indices. What again, just reiterate here, I think, which is really constructive, is when you look at the sectors and look at individual names. So you could look at the travel names, up 3.7%. The metals and mining, up also 3.7% today, which again, I think is really constructive when you look at some of these areas like the industrials, when you look at the materials, right? A lot of these areas have been consolidating a little bit, and they look like they want to push higher here. So really nice price action here. Of course, if you drill down to the individual names, I got long some GE today. Why did I do that today on such a big candle? Well, it's the first push out of the consolidation, right? For me, I don't mind chasing a little bit as long as it's the first day of confirmation out of out of a range, which is what I see now, right? So I bought this. What's my price that I bought this? GE 1392. So I'm up a little bit in this trade, right? And then of course, if you look at things like Boeing, nice move today. Caterpillar, I think, also had a decent day today too. Just up 1.5%. All right. So again, kind of looks like this chart too. So that those materials and those industrials, I think the trends are intact there. I think pretty constructive considering that we've seen a lot of the outperformance come from the growth groups. But I think that some of these other cyclical groups look pretty strong too. Cyclical value, whatever you want to call them. All right. What else? Steel names, right? So I was long some U.S. Steel. I decided to take that trade off today. I actually took a lot of trades off today. I'll get into that in just a second. But again, like textbook turn here, right? Nice uptrend, got a little bit extended, right? We talked about how the materials names got a little bit the value areas got a bit extended. So we took out a virgin point of control all the way back here. We've been moving down lower. Came back into the 20-day moving average, which we were extended above, and now you can see the turn here. So again, pretty constructive price action in things like Cleveland Cliffs. RS is moving higher. What did Nucor end up doing today? Not so much in Nucor. STLD is also one of my favorites within the group, also up 1.7%. So again, pretty good looking stuff. Right. The semis were also up another one. Oh, sorry. So not the semis. The semis were up just a fraction, a little bit. Energy names were also up a little bit. And then if you look at the underperformance, right, and possibly why the S&P didn't break out so much is because you had the defensive groups underperform. So again, a bit risk on. XLU down, lagged for the day. Just down 65 basis points, not that big of a deal. Consumer staples, REITs, as well underperformed. All right. So, I think what's going on is pretty decent. We're finding a lot of clean, good-looking setups. In this tape right now. If you go through some of my trades, right, a couple other ones. I feel like Ford was the one, right? Ford, this was awesome, right? So I took off this trade today. I actually started GM, right? So again, maybe jumping the gun here a little bit in GM, but I'm looking forward to a move out of consolidation, right, for GM. But really nice winner in Ford that we put on. This was just a trade we put on last week, and I love when trades work really quickly. Speaking of which, this trip worked great. Right, nice move here, up 3.5% for the day. Again, this name might be battling some overhead supply, so I'm happy to get out of this for a bounce. Right, the other big theme of the day. So there's a couple other themes, right? So short interest names, they went crazy today. This is not exactly my cup of tea because in my analysis, I tend to look at more than one thing when I go into a trade. I see a lot of one-sided or one-factor ideas for trades. Not just GameStop and AMC, which I can go over the technicals in those really quickly. AMC, completely huge amount of volume today. I'm not going to spend too much time here. 2682 was the one target that if you were trading this. Also, this thing got pretty darn close to 3020. But to me, it's a head scratcher for a couple reasons. which I discussed in yesterday's video. Number one, I don't understand who is shorting these things after what happened earlier in the year, right? If you look at the short interest in AMC, take a look. The short interest is as high as it's ever been. So I don't know why a fund would go against a group that is so passionate about one particular stock, right? I mentioned yesterday how I get a notification from Bloomberg about the names that are most mentioned every day on StockTwits. AMC is the most mentioned name going on for about 3 months. So why would anybody want to get in the face of somebody who doesn't care what the market does? They just AMC, 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 right? Like why would you even think about shorting something like that? So that's the number one head scratcher. The number two head scratcher is I don't really get why there's so much long interest in this. So I don't know. There's some things in the market I just won't understand. If I don't understand them, I don't trade them, right? And that's how it works for me. I think overall, you're never going to understand every single name and everything that's going on. And if it doesn't fit your game plan, then you just don't trade it. And that's kind of what I did. And some of the stuff, it's tough because there's so many big moves that are happening. Same thing with GameStop. I don't really get it. I know that you can easily buy, games online, right? It's kind of like Blockbuster, right? If Blockbuster was still around, I think people would be, this same group would be going long Blockbuster for a short squeeze. So even though the company's dynamics weren't that smart, they didn't really change with the times. They weren't in front of the curve, right, in terms of how the industry was changing, right? So I don't think, in my opinion, that they should get rewarded because they didn't change their business model fast enough. But hey, it's a difference of opinions, right? And I don't need to be in that market to kind of prove my opinion. What else? And then every other name that has short interest, right? SPSE, Rocket Mortgage was another one. All kinds of call activity in this stuff. Just grasping for straws, just because a name has high short interest, right? Anything. So again, I'll give you my quick philosophy and then I'll move on. But short interest is definitely one of the factors to kind of look at for a trade idea. But it can't be, in my opinion, again, these videos are all my opinion, so you could disagree with me. It's fine. And that's what makes a market, right? Different opinions. There's also many other ways than just one to make money in a market. But for me, I have to have a couple reasons to go long a trade, right? The more reasons, the better. Not just one reason, but hey, I guess it's worked really well this week just to have one reason. All right, so that was a big theme. I'll move on. What I also find as an interesting observation is, a couple weeks ago, names that were reporting pretty good earnings, they were not being rewarded, right? They were met with selling pressure, right? Why did that happen? Well, fund managers wanted to exit some trades. Right? They wanted to get out of some trades and go into some other areas of the market. Now it's kind of been evened out, right? That has already happened. A lot of fund managers have gotten out of growth names and gotten into value names. It's much more even keel now, right? So now that those rotations have taken place, they're not, and many names are not over-owned, which is also one of the problems that we faced a couple months ago, is that many names were severely overcrowded. Right? And they didn't have any more incremental buyers, right? They had instead a lot of supply in those names versus demand. Now that it's more even keeled, they're not as overcrowded anymore. So when a name really has a great earnings and it's a little bit unexpected, a name is popping, right? As we saw with Zscaler earlier in the week, right? Snow was a good reaction, right? So now this did take out a couple of VPOCs here. But I'll tell you, what's interesting now is this is now above all the moving averages. It doesn't have a 200-day moving average yet, but it's above all the other moving averages right now on my charts. So that hasn't happened since, all the way back in the beginning of the year. right? And now it's at a lower level. So, here's how it works for me. If you've been a regular viewer of my videos, or if you're a member of Tribeca Trade Group, you'll hear me be very opinionated based on what the price action is telling me, based upon what the price action and what the trend is telling me. If the trend is down, I don't want to be in it. If the price action is ugly, if it keeps stalling where it needs to go higher and push higher to get out of that downtrend, right? Like here, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm very negative the name. However, once we start to see things like this, good volume, price movement, a nice reversal, and back above the value area, so the trend is now up for now, and the price action is above all the short-term moving averages. Now I can get more constructive now that we've got a little bit of confirmation. Am I long this name? No. But it's something now I'm putting on my radar to watch. All right, so that's how it works for me. You'll hear me do that over and over, where I'll be very negative about a group of stocks and very positive. However, I will change based on what the market is telling me, not about some preconceived ideas or some opinions or some prediction, right? I will stay objective to what the price action is telling me. All right, so let's go over just a couple other areas of the market. Also, this Salesforce, right? Big downtrend line. So this will be great. This thing's up to 238. If this can kind of even push a little bit higher, maybe above here, we're onto something here with Salesforce, right? A name that went up big all the way back in August, and has done basically nothing but go down since, right? So this name has been a waste of time over the last 6 months. So more than 6 months. So maybe this kind of changes things a little bit. Vive also had a good earnings reaction here after the close. So again, it's nice to see other areas of the market do something different than just value, just growth, right? Much more even keel and a nice reaction. How about this one after hours? Another growth name, Alta. Right? If Alta stays up here at 343, you're going to have a breakout on your hands, possibly in Alta. So I'm interested in this one. All right, very constructive looking. All right, so just to kind of summarize where I am at this point, you can kind of see some of the things that I've been doing here. I got out of some risk today. Why did I do that? Well, I have some difficulties with the last day of the trading month, so I just made it easy on myself. Hey, I'm going to kind of start the new month a little bit fresh, and we'll focus on some new opportunities and be objective. I typically, this happened to me last month, where the last week of the month, and April was a good month for me, P&L, but I gave a little bit back at the right at the end of the month. So I want to avoid that like a plague tomorrow. And I'm up for this year. Year to date, I'm up about 26%. So I'm making progress, right? I'm certainly not the type of year that I had last year, up over 300% last year. But hey, I'm building, right? And I'm giving what the market is taking. I'm taking what the market is giving me, right? Versus trying to achieve some number. This is the first year that I'm in that U.S. investment contest, right? I think it's called. I don't even know what it's called. USIC, I think it is. Right? Where is this thing? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Right, so this is great. If you ever want to enter a contest, right? So I'm somewhere in here. Right, so this is where I am from April. So I'll be adding to those gains a little bit, and so this is the first year I'm doing this contest. Would I like to be up, a lot more than that? Sure. My goal for this year, which I've kind of revised a little bit, is to be up about 100%. But that's not my number one goal, right? That's one of my goals, but really my number one goal is just to continue to kind of trade with this market, and stick to my trading plan and my process, right? Trade disciplined, attack when I see good looking setups in the market, right? When I think that the wind is at my back in terms of setups, to kind of take some more risk in those opportunities. So I'm very enthused for the month of June. I think we could have, I like how market breadth is, right? I like how the participation is. I like some of the things that we're seeing now post earnings. I think this is, like I said, a much more even keel market versus, overcrowded names and a lot of names that are under positioned in. So I'm very constructive this market, going forward. As I've said in previous, these previous days videos, I've talked about how, I think that we can push to new highs in the S&P in the beginning of the month. I still think that, but of course, if we happen to see something, some type of bad news, something about the Fed, something about interest rates, always will I be changing my opinion. All right, guys, so that's it for today's video. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.